Now, President Bola Tinubu yesterday announced that Nigeria has hit its 2025 revenue target in the month of August, driven largely by proceeds from the non-oil sector. I mentioned that earlier, that something is happening in the non-oil space. Now, according to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, President Tinubu disclosed this at the Villa while receiving founding members of the defunct Congress for Progressive Change and the Buhari organization led by the Nasarawa State Governor Umar Tanko Amakura. President Tinubu said the feat underscored the impact of his administration's economic reforms. President Tinubu assured Nigerians that his renewed hope agenda remained anchored on infrastructure renewal, improved health facilities, food sovereignty, and security. He disclosed that the federal government would establish agricultural mechanization centers across all regions to boost cultivation, expand harvests, and create more jobs. Well, my guest is Dr. Taufik Rahim. He's a development expert, business economist, and also a policy analyst. He joins me live from our Abuja studios. It's the first time on the show. Thank you so much. It's good to have you on the show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Tolu.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Well, let's start our conversation with taking a step backwards to when President Tinubu started with these bold reforms. I want to get your understanding of how it all played out and where we are getting to now, where inflation is gradually easing. We've seen a stability in our currency. We've also seen that gradually a bit of stability seems to be coming back to the economy. Before we talk about the impact on the micros.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to our various viewers across the globe. I think it is commendable to recognize and give an overview of the fallout of the economic reforms undertaken by the current administration under the leadership of our President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For me, I would just summarize that the economic reform of President Tinubu is leading us to full economic recovery, economic growth, and economic development in Nigeria. Why did I say so? I'm a policy analyst, a development expert, and I've been around for some reasonable time. I have always believed that there is a linkage between our past, the present, and the future. If we look back to when the president came to power, before he instituted a lot of reforms, we knew that most of the states in Nigeria, they were unable to pay their salaries. They were borrowing money. In fact, the federal government was giving them bailout. We also noticed that there were incessant fuel queues across the country due to petrol shortage and inconsistency in our local refinery. There was also no private refinery before Tinubu came. We also have a lot of debt which the current administration has cleared. Look at the $7 billion backlog that were owed to local investors. Tinubu government has cleared it within 2 years. Look at the 3.4 billion COVID-19 debt owed to international organization. Tinubu has cleared it. Look at the minimum wage that were very problematic for most state governments as at the time. When Tinubu came, he has been able to clear them. Look at the state of our infrastructure all across the region in Nigeria, that has been rejuvenated. Look at the investors' confidence that we have now started experiencing, both local and international, because there is stability in our economy. These are the fallout of a critical economic reform that the president has undertaken. Let me quickly highlight 5 of these economic reforms, which are very bold. Of course, they have teething initial problems. Some are still lingering to today. But like I've always said over the years, in the last 2 years, I saw this coming. I said that we have a president who is visionary, who is strategic, and who is passionate, who is focused, who is never distracted. He came up with oil subsidy removal because it was not benefiting many but favoring few. He came up with currency unification. Now you can see that there is almost the same value of dollar to naira, both in the open and the black market. He also talked about fighting food insecurity. These are critical reform that he has undertaken. He also came up with local government autonomy. Fantastic. When that becomes fully operational, the dividend of democracy and the quality of life of our people will even enhance more. So there are so many reforms that he has come up with. So the totality of it is that we have turned the corner. And that is why both the World Bank, IMF, WTO, that is of recent time our home, Professor Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has acknowledged and publicly announced that Nigeria economy is stable and Nigeria economy can even grow more. There are 4 phases for us to arrive to the destination that we are going. One, we must stabilize the economy first, which is what we have achieved, which is what the President and his Economic Council has achieved for the country. 2, we must consolidate so that we don't go back to the olden days where we begin to have free fall of all those advantages I mentioned. 3, then we must now continue to grow our GDP, what I call economic growth. Do you know, Tolu, a country economy, can grow, but without economic development? Because economic growth is measured in terms of GDP. 3.4% was what we achieved, the best in about 3 or 10 years or so, by the end of December last year. But economic growth is not equal to economic development. Economic development is where we will have positive impact, greater impact that we are expecting in the life of our people. The health care service, the unemployment must decline, the quality of life, the standard of living must increase. So these are the various phases. And that's why I said summarily that through President Tinubu, our economy is on the path of full recovery because we have now overcome the initial basic problem. If there is no foundation, you cannot build anything on it. So that's my overview, general overview. The economy is doing well, and we can achieve better.
Moving forward, the entire real sector, their argument from time has been around interest rates, which many of them will tell you that we cannot do business if interest rate remains high. And we need to build an inclusive economy. You talked about GDP growth. The target is $1 trillion economy. And if we are targeting $1 trillion economy, as of today, we are at about $250 billion US dollars, the calculation from the NBS. That's as of the last rebased GDP. What are those things, what are those quick wins that you think government could get into that would make us achieve inclusive growth, that will carry the people along, grow the economy, and at the end of the day, we will get to where we should be?
Okay, thank you, Tolu. You have asked a very fundamental question. That is moving forward. What more can be done? But let me slightly amend your thought that the economy itself is still inclusive. It's just the rate of that inclusivity that we can be talking about. A lot of Nigerians are now having one thing or the other to do, but they can do better. The per capita income can be improved upon. So what can the government do in order to achieve greater opportunity, not just for the rich, not just for the big companies, international organizations, the FDI that is flowing into Nigeria, that more that will flow? What more can the president and his council do? One, the president has suggested and advised strongly that we must stay the course. The government must stay the course of the economic reform. You know, of course, regularly reviewing the performance and also, rejuvenating them. 2, agriculture is very key. If we are able to produce locally what we need, what we eat, just like the president said yesterday, that if you remove food from poverty is light. It's a Yoruba profile that is very popular. In fact, that is why when you look at even our Nigeria, the last inflation report that was published for July shows that our headline inflation stood at 21.88%, away from 22.22% in June, and there has been decline for like 4 months consecutively. So if we continue to manage the rate of inflation, governments will continue to manage the rate of inflation. Then 3, like I mentioned, agriculture is very key. Government, the mechanized agriculture across every region that the president mentioned should be accelerated. It is very, very important to accelerate this, because through agriculture, we will be able to engage so many of our people, as you have mentioned. So we will be able to also reduce cost of importation of food to Nigeria, which will exacerbate inflation. We must also, governments will also deploy the 2,000 tractor that has been procured. It's believed that this has not been distributed to the users or to the end users. So I suggest that this has to be done. 4, government must continue on the infrastructural development that is currently ongoing. Each of the sector must also review their strategies. Which one are working, which one they need to do more. I also suggest that the issue of power, we must still address the issue of power, whether it is from generation to distribution, to transmission to distribution. The clog on this has to be removed. If government had to, sell off some part or revoke some licenses of non-performing ones, I think this had to be done. Then we must continue, government must continue, the president must continue on the diversification that is already undertaking. And that is why when you see what the president said, that the latest report shows that non-oil contribute more than 50% year on year. About 16 trillion at the end of August, out of 20 trillion naira that has already been generated, which means we can still do better. IMF has projected that the country GDP will grow by about 3.56 this year. I think we can do 4%. IMF also projects that our level of inflation may stand at 22% by the end of December. I believe we can even do 17%. Of course, government is projecting 15%. So these are critical things that government has to do. The president has to also, in his regular evaluation of the performances of agencies, would need to also evaluate those ones, the leadership of those agencies or ministry that are not giving him the actionable timeline delivery. Those ones have to be said to say thank you, and then bring in new people who will also help to rejuvenate our economy. These are some of the things that I believe in. And then also very important, the collaboration that is ongoing between the executive and the National Assembly must continue. I know many people have argued that it is collusion. They are not colliding. When the various arms of government team up for the best, for the good of Nigeria, I think it's collaboration. So such collaboration must continue, and then also the collaboration between federal government and the subnational, because there is no federal state. What we have is states, and I think there will be other opportunity when I will come on your program to also talk of what the state had to do.
Yes, allow me.
People live in the states.
Allow me, Dr. Raimi, allow me to interject, because I wanted to take you up on that. Just last month, the Federal Account Allocation Committee shared 2.1 trillion naira between the federal, states, and local governments. And you talked about it in your first submission that states are not owing salaries anymore. They're getting more revenue from FAC. So that means that a lot is also expected from the state governments. So I'm going to allow you, for the last few minutes we have, to talk about the role of the states in supporting the president in achieving that sort of inclusive growth, that growth of above 4%, 5% that you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. You see, I've always argued that the kind of development, economic development and growth that we're anticipating in Nigeria cannot happen if there is no synergy among the 3 tiers of hierarchy of government in Nigeria, which is the federal, the state, and the local government. I have noticed that some states are doing well, some other states are not doing well. I know that we have top 10 economically viable states, and we have 10 worst economic disadvantaged states, you know. So state can do a lot through agricultural revolution. You know, our farmers who are resident in states and local government must be empowered more. Most of the states that are doing well, whose headline inflation is lower in July, as well as whose food inflation is lower in July and previous months, what I found out is that they are doing about 4 things. Most of those states 8 of them are in the north, 2 are in the south. What are they doing? They are investing heavily in agriculture, giving agricultural implements and fertilizer, free fertilizer or subsidized, and they are encouraging agriculture, you know, for both their own local need and also for export. 2, I noticed that insecurity in most of those states have reduced drastically, if not eliminated, because there is a nexus between insecurity and economic underdevelopment. So our federal government, state government, they must synergize together to be able to really repress this insecurity, because without peace, without no investment will go to state without security. You know, and then 3, our states must also do what I call need assessment in their investment or in their expenditure. Frivolous investment must be eliminated. The vulnerable within our society, which majority of them live across the state, the 36 states of the Federation and FCT, must be supported. Transportation also is very key. People need to commute from one place to the other. How can they be supported? I also see that they should invest in human capital development. You know, most of our youth that are not doing, or either they are underemployed or they are unemployed, must be given adequate skills. You know, so there must be investment in health care. There must be investment in education, that's renovation of schools and new schools. Abandonment projects, which litters everywhere in Nigeria, about 15,000 federal government abandoned projects that will cost almost 15 trillion naira, must also be taken on. You know, maybe as a development expert, what I suggest is that we should scale development. And then we should also bring development into the rural areas. These are the work of state and local government. So it is the aggregate of all these that will now give us what we require. That is why all the effort of the federal government through the president will crystallize in the economic growth stage and economic development, which I mentioned earlier, as the 2 phases remaining. We're already on the 3rd phase now because our GDP is already growing. So if it continues like that, definitely we will achieve the economic development that will impact not just the life of the educated, not just the life of the rich and the wealthy, not just the foreign investment that government is attracting. Look at what the president is doing. Every time he travels out, he travels with relevant state governors. Niger State, Benue State, you know, look at what he has signed in Brazil for connectivity, that's aviation, for foreign affairs, and also for agriculture. So that is the kind of synergy. But now, some of these things have already started yielding the right fruit. We must stay the course. The collaboration must continue, and the president, through his various ministers, we can, on another show, I offer to come back and give us assessment of what the states are doing and what the ministers are doing. Because it is by we identifying their criticizing, but being objective, that we can help the cause of this government. Because if Nigeria, he who prays and work for the fruit of Nigeria, shall reap out of it. Doctor, I want to be one of it. Tolu, what about you?
I want to be one of it too. Thank you so much. I like that. Dr. Taufeeq Raimi, interesting conversation with you, I must say. Thank you, development expert, business economist, policy analyst. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Most welcome.
All right then.